Hey there, innovation champions. Melissa Dinwiddie here. Have you ever solved a brilliant problem only to watch your team struggle with the same challenge months later as if the solution never existed? This phenomenon, what I call organizational amnesia, isn't just frustrating. It is costing your company time and money and breakthrough innovations. Let me share a story that taught me the true value of innovation memory. Back when I was running my calligraphy business, my art business, I dreaded one task above all others: tracking my time. As a creative, the very thought of monitoring every minute that I spent designing and lettering and gilding and painting and all the various different things that went into making a piece for a client felt like the antithesis of artistic flow. I just wanted to create. I didn't want to clock watch. But after one particularly painful project, a really gorgeous wedding ketubah, that's a Jewish marriage contract, that took nearly twice as long as I had estimated, I had a realization that totally transformed my business. And that was, without capturing what I had learned, I was doomed to repeat the same mistakes. So I gritted my teeth and I built a very simple system to track how long each component really took. All it was just basically a sheet that I used. It was very old school. And I logged in what time it was when I checked in and what time it was when I logged out and what I was doing. And then I added up the hours that I spent on each different element of the piece that I was working on. And so as a result of that, the next bid, every time, I was able to see when I took on a similar project, I had actual data instead of just optimistic guesses. And I had a habit of being very optimistic in my guesses. And I really needed to change that. So that very small habit, which I have to admit was very hard, but I wasn't perfect at it. But that very small habit of preserving my experience for future reference, it made all the difference between a sustainable business and constant frustration. So fast forward to today, and I am seeing the exact same pattern play out in my rapidly growing grassroots democracy group. So what started with 12 people in a living room has exploded to over 440 members in just a few months. Well, our first few meetings were fairly straightforward, but by our third gathering with 40 attendees crammed into a living room, it was clear that we needed to adapt fast. And one leadership team member suggested what we called an action fair, which was basically a bunch of tables showcasing the different teams and projects that we had going on. And that was, I believe, our fourth meeting. I can't even remember now. But anyway, it was a huge hit. So problem solved, right? Well, not quite. By, I think it was our fifth meeting, new challenges emerged. Through all of our meetings, we have discovered that half the room every time is experiencing the community for the first time, while others are now, as we have, we've had our fifth meeting now. So others have been hearing my welcome speech multiple times and they are ready to move on. So another team member suggested a really brilliant solution, and that is staggered start times, with new members arriving early for orientation and members who've been around for a while coming later. So this constant iteration is the hallmark of innovation. But here's the critical question. where was all this learning being captured? Without a system to preserve these insights, we risked losing valuable innovations with each leadership transition, with each new challenge, and with each evolution of our community. And that's when I realized that this pattern extends to every innovative organization that I've worked with and ones that I haven't worked with, from startups to tech giants. In my work with teams at companies like Meta, Google, Salesforce, Uber, you name it, I have discovered that innovation memory operates on 3 distinct levels. Guess what? Aligning perfectly with my Create the Impossible framework. Now, if you have been following me at all, you know that my framework has 3 steps. So let's go through them. First, play hard memory. So step number 1 is play hard. Play hard memory is where organizations capture the spirit of experimentation and play that led to breakthroughs. Now, it's not just documenting what worked, but how the team approached the problem and the mindset that made innovation possible. So, for instance, when a design team at a major tech company developed a revolutionary UI approach, they didn't just document the final design, they captured the playful ideation process that broke them out of conventional thinking. That includes like the exact games and prompts that sparked their breakthrough. So now when they face similar challenges, they don't just have the solution, they also have the creative pathway that led to it. Not that they're necessarily going to use those exact games, but they have a pathway to start from. Second, make crap memory. Step number 2 in my Create the Impossible framework is make crap. Now, this might sound counterintuitive, but the most innovative organizations that I work with, they don't just document their successes. They meticulously capture their fascinating failures and their imperfect prototypes. These are not failures in the traditional sense. They are necessary stepping stones to breakthrough solutions. So, for example, one software development team that I know of created a museum of fascinating failures, which is a digital archive where team members could explore abandoned prototypes along with the insights gleaned from each attempt. And this treasure trove has sparked more innovations than their catalog of successes ever did. Third, we have learn fast memory. So step number 3 of my Create the Impossible framework is learn fast. And this final level is about capturing the patterns of learning itself, how your organization translates experience into knowledge and knowledge into innovation. And this includes documenting not just what you learned, but how you learned it. What questions unlocked new perspectives? What feedback mechanisms accelerated your understanding? When organizations preserve these learning patterns, they don't just solve today's problems faster, they develop the capacity to tackle completely new challenges with greater agility. So, how can you put these principles into practice in your own organization? Creating an effective memory system, it doesn't have to be complicated. So here are 3 simple strategies that I recommend. First, capture in the moment. Innovation insights are often most valuable when they're fresh. So create simple rituals for documenting insights during or immediately after key moments. So for example, 5-minute reflection rounds at the end of meetings. Grab it right then. Or voice memos captured on walks after breakthrough sessions. Or quick notes about what worked or what didn't in shared spaces. Any of these, all of these are great. The key is making documentation so frictionless that it becomes second nature. You want to eliminate whatever hoops you can to make it super, super easy. Second, focus on context, not just content. When capturing innovations, you want to include all the context that made them possible. What constraints were you working with? What mindset or approach unlocked the breakthrough? What unexpected connections sparked the idea? All of this contextual information is often more valuable than the solution itself because it can be applied to entirely different challenges. And third, create living archives. Traditional documentation so often sits totally untouched in dusty digital folders. So instead, create living archives that team members actually engage with, like story-based case studies that capture the human journey of innovation, visual timelines showing how ideas evolved, searchable repositories tagged with the types of challenges that they address. The goal here is to make your innovation memory really accessible and engaging, not just comprehensive, but accessible. All right. Organizations that master innovation memory don't just avoid repeating mistakes. They accelerate their innovation capacity exponentially. When each team member can build on the collective learning of the entire organization, breakthroughs just happen faster. And challenges that once took months to solve can be addressed in days or even hours. And more importantly, your team's innovation capacity becomes resilient to turnover and reorgs and leadership changes. The insights and approaches that drive your success aren't just locked away in individual minds, they're woven into the fabric of your organization. So here's my challenge to you this week. Identify one recent organization in your team that deserves to be preserved. What insights or approaches or lessons learned should be captured for future reference? And take 15 minutes to document not just what worked, but how your team derived at the solution, including the playful experiments, the imperfect prototypes, and the learning patterns that made it possible. So remember, your next breakthrough might already exist in your organization's past experiences, if only you could remember them. All right, ready to build an innovation memory system that preserves your team's best insights and accelerates breakthroughs? Click the link in the description to book a complimentary innovation strategy session. And let's explore how the Create the Impossible framework can help you transform how your organization learns from experience and build a collective innovation memory that survives leadership changes and team transitions and organizational shifts. And if you found these insights about innovation memory valuable, hit that like button and subscribe to join our community of innovation champions. Don't forget to ring that notification bell so you never miss a new strategy for driving creativity and innovation in your work. I would love to know your thoughts on this topic. How does your organization preserve its innovation insights? Do you have systems in place to capture the context of breakthroughs, not just the solutions themselves? Or maybe you've created your own unique approach to organizational memory. Share your insights in the comments below. Till next time, stay curious, stay playful, and keep creating the impossible. See you next time. Ciao.